I'm going to introduce somebody. She's going to just shoot through some questions. What we're trying to do. So I was meant to do a presentation, but I'm wary of time, and I know that time is very important to respect, right? So we're going to try and walk you through a conversation of why StokFella Marketplace and why the Share The Codes Stokvel getting onto StokFella Marketplace. Like, what is the purpose of this? Just so that you can get a better insight. Ultimately, what we are driving for is that let's create a group amongst ourselves here. Let's make that group the vehicle that's going to fund the entrepreneurs that pitch on stage. Does that make sense? Okay.
Good evening, everyone. It's so lovely to see you here in your great numbers as always. I think what I've learned from Selebogo and Tshepo is that they make money work for you while you are sitting at home watching Chiefs lose another game. But maybe they'll be winning next time. But I've got a few questions for them. I just want them to prove to you that this is not new. In the past, they've built the People's Fund, they've built the People's Stokvel, and they built that money franchise Stokvel. And we're talking big numbers. I remember during lockdown in 2020 to 2021, a hard lockdown, so we couldn't come out like this and meet. And we had to mobilize people online, and we raised about 3 million. Groups of 200 people, we raised about 3 million, and we bought 2 franchise stores from that. And this was an initiative by the Hookup Dinner, which is now Share The Codes. And this money was raised through a transparent platform where every member of the group could see what was happening inside the group. And that platform is StokFella, right? So maybe this question, I'm not sure who can take it first, but I think it applies to both of you guys. How do you move people from saving, to more like community building? People are mostly saving for themselves, but then how do you move them from saving, how do you evolve them from just saving to systems building maybe? Because when we are collecting this money, it's not coming to us. We are building a system that works for everyone who's part of the group.
Okay, thanks, buddy. Tate Mutene spoke about something very important. It's gonna be us who are gonna build the country, nobody else, right? And as soon as we understand that, it moves us to take action. And we're very fortunate that we're one of those tribes that we talk once, we act. A lot of you would know this. I see Sis was sitting here somewhere, one of our early co-founders in the People's Fund. And literally, we were gathered at my house, having drinks there one afternoon. Happened to be Luanda and Zu also in action. And Sis was just visiting. But I was just like, you're gonna design this thing, you're gonna do this because he's a storyteller. Like, everybody knew what they needed to do to build the country up. And that's the journey. That's the genesis of the People's Fund, right? We just got together, we got on with it, and we decided, let's take action, let's set up this platform and try to do something about it. Coming this time around with building a country through community, we're just like, these are customers here. These are families here. And they go in line with our own personal values. And we've decided, because we're so family oriented, we love our families, we love our kids, we love our partners and stuff. There's something that we can unlock as value through this community. And ultimately, our journey, when we start thinking about when we set up the Hookup Dinner, crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, that's what we did. In fact, our first 65K that we raised, it was run by Tad Maseru. That's the Hookup Dinner in Lesotho. The organization that Stephen ran in Lesotho. These are just individuals sitting there listening to businesses, listening to ideas, and they were like, hey, we're gonna put money in here, And then we took that idea, came to South Africa, scaled it up, right? Why? Because we've got the numbers on the side. And the obsession here really is, how do you convert this from audience into active community of people that actually want to contribute in a meaningful way? We realized that, okay, we need technology. And StokFella was already on the rise and doing some amazing things. So we decided to set up a Stokvel called the People's Cooperative Stokvel. And that was about, let's build our own bank. We come up with these crazy ideas because we've got this other guy called Luanda Jafta. really crazy up in his head, and you need people like that around you because they'll just fire you up, right? And we conceptualized a concept called Iklipa Joe. And Iklipa Joe was really about, let's take pocket change, put it in every month, let's take that money, let's fund entrepreneurs, and let's get a return, rinse, repeat. You see what's happening? But we had lessons along the way. In fact, we even got approval from the Reserve Bank with getting certification and stuff, but we also had challenges along the way. So we've been reflecting with Tshepo a lot about what have we done, what are the lessons, what can we do better? And that's the journey, and I'll unpack a bit more.
Yeah, the journey, or how do you convert people? Which one is it? Yeah. You know, I always say to people that majority of people are followers when you have a strong leadership. So what we see in terms of the performing groups on the platform, it is strong, what we call strong executives that know their vision, that know how to communicate, that know the industry that they're talking about, that know that, look, I have to be strong and stand first because members will push you, because members would want their money. So when members feel confident with the leader, or confident with the idea, when we launched the franchise StokFella at that point in time, it was myself, Selebogo, it was Palesa, it was Ritabile as well. Yeah, Batabile. And we were chatting online, and we were like, let's do it. And we all became confident around do it. So first, when you're a confident leader, people will follow you. They will. It doesn't take a lot to change. We're not going to need 60 million people to change the nation. We're going to need the right group types of people to change the nation. And I see them here, sitting here. We can talk about our good friends AfriForum as well. If we do the statistics very well, there's about how many Afrikaners in the country? 3 million or 5 million? Somewhere there? 2 million? 2 million? 2 million at most? AfriForum has got 300,000 members. And yet,
only 40% of the contributors are black.
Yeah. Yes. So, and yet they move the country. So, it's not going to take a lot. Yeah, it's time for us to realize that it's key individuals that are willing to stand for what is right.
Yeah, no, I do agree. I mean, apart from what we've done as StokFella and that money franchise Stokvel, also Toha Africa does the same thing. They mobilize the masses. And maybe Dr. Zakes from Dr. Palo, from your experience, I mean, what is the one thing that pushes people to actually invest in something with intention? Because if we are saying the people of AfriForum are putting 50 rands a month, you can just imagine 50 rands. But when there's 200,000 or when there's 2 million of you, 50 rands is really. So what is it? What is the code that you've cracked about getting people to act and act now and act intentionally to say, we are building this vehicle for now, we are building this vehicle for tomorrow, and we are going to fetch other people as well to come and contribute into this?
Yeah, you know, I think for us it was Selebogo and what's name Tshepo will remember that when we started the People's Fund, when we did aspect crowdfunding, we actually call it crowdfunding first until we called it Stokvel. People came in numbers. So one of the things that we always say is that cultures are created. Before you get into business culture, we have to start, general cultures, because general cultures inform business cultures, then they inform consumer cultures. And yes, we've come up with a Mapiano, we've come up with all whites and all those things. But I think we have to know the commercialization aspect of these things that we're starting. So for us, we're closest to professionals. And I think professionals, experience, skills, expertise, and a little bit of disposable income. These are people that are really, there's so many people that are looking for up to these people. And for us, it was important to say, because cooperative economics is key and central and core to any of the work that we are doing. You know, that's what, from the medical side of things, 7 GP practices on the same street is so 1980s. And I think it goes to the other fraternities as well, engineering and law and so on. We have to consolidate as a people. Then we have a day hospital. How's that? How about a day hospital? Instead of 7 GP practices and we're fighting for the same clientele. I hope I've answered your question, my sister.
Yeah.
Yes, you've answered my question. And one thing about the doctor, the good doctor, you always just add extra on top. So I appreciate it. Maybe let me just pose this question to the crowd. How many people here are part of a Stokvel? Okay.
How many people are part of a Stokvel or Stokfella?
Yes.
Okay.
Lock the doors.
So less than half of the people in this room are gathering with other people to put money together, either for groceries, for school uniforms, or to support a cause. And I hope that by the time we leave this room, we have a changed mindset. We saw the presentations. We know what we are trying to do. And it's so important for us to be proud when we are part of something that moves the masses. And maybe let me just ask a question that's going to unlock that value for you. When you guys did the People's Fund, right? You went with purchase order funding. What did that do for the people who were actually part of that piggy bank? What did it do for the contributors? What did it do for the people who were actually funded by that money? Because essentially it also started as a Stokvel of some kind, right?
Okay. Look, with the People's Fund, when we started, it's what we're doing even now, where we're saying, Umfundo is standing on stage, he's got this product and he needs cash flow for capacity, right? And he doesn't have it. Can you guys unlock this? And instead of giving him a loan that he can't afford to pay, we're like, just pre-buy the product, right? We did that with Native Nosi, and we crowdfunded for about 450,000 Rand on the platform. The reason we ended up with purchase order funding was because that's where the demand was coming from. Anybody who's in the entrepreneurship space would know that your business model adapts according to customers. So you don't stay static, otherwise you go out of business, right? And with us, we realized that more and more entrepreneurs were coming with a purchase order. It was a promise of pay. There was a set date of when you're going to get this money. It was just easy. Initially, we resisted and whatever, and then we eventually scaled. Then we also had a really great leader, Luanda. Like, Luanda mobilized, built the technology, did some amazing things on the background, and we set up proper governance systems for that to happen. But the People's Fund was not a Stokvel. Then we realized the crowd can get involved, but because we're doing crowdfunding, not enough people can afford to pop out 100K individually to fund some of these POs. How about we set up a campaign, CBZ Clipper Joe? I'm a Clipper, actually, over 1,000 people could be put together, fund the order that somebody needs, get the return from there, put it back into the platform, monitor everything through the StokFella platform. This is why Tshepo is so crucial and central to each of these conversations that are taking place. Cooperative economics is the way to go. We've seen it across the world, not just here. It happens everywhere. The one thing that we cannot take lightly is trust. Business is built at the speed of trust. I sit here or I stand here. A lot of you would know me all the way back to 2011 doing this thing. So when I stand up and I say, guys, we're going to do this, you know that I'm consistent and you can trust that voice. Does that make sense? And then when you think about technology, when you hear about Tshepo's platform, Tshepo's been at this for the longest of time. He's burnt through it. He's wanted to quit his business and go back to corporate because this guy's got 2 master's degrees and he was earning really well in a bank. And for him to go and chew glass, building up a startup, I don't know what's going on in his head. But we need guys like that, right? The People's Fund would have never scaled to the 400 million mark without Tshepo's expertise and input if he was staying and locked into corporate. Does that make sense? Because we need each other, we need all of the expertise in the room. So for us, even coming back here, I don't want to stand up tomorrow and I'm busy pitching to you guys, would you just set up a Stokvel for a tavern? I'm not that guy. You're gonna go back into my history and you'll be like, no, but now he's diverting, he's doing funny things. Then you know I'm a scammer, right? But as long as I stand and fall for this thing that is consistent, we are building a community for entrepreneurs. And what we want to understand is, how do we unlock value from the community? Both community at a personal, individual level, because it's important.
I don't like to see people that say that we can't reach a target because we don't have access to clients. It doesn't make sense, because the 2 things that most entrepreneurs struggle with is access to market and, yes, access to funding, right? So how do we unlock that, you know? So we are unlocking the access to market through the Stokvels. we want the Share the Code Stokvel to unlock access to funding, basically. So if an entrepreneur is got 3,000 orders from the Stokvel, but they still require capital to deliver, how does Share the Codes do that? Maybe Share the Codes funds 50% of it, and then a corporate steps in and matches the 50% of it. But one thing you know as corporate, that you're not going to a zero. You're going somewhere where the Stokvel is saying, we will be that first time jockey, that seed capital for the entrepreneur, because they've been vetted, they've been checked, the product is clear, everything is done. They've got a vested audience already that has bought, which is the Stokvel market, but they're just short of that additional 50% capital, as an example. It could be 30%, could be 70%, we don't know. It all comes back to what is the capital, because the Stokvel will fund a piece, or sort of it, and then can someone else match it? Because we see those deals happening most of the time. You're as only strong as your asset balance sheet.
Yes.
Right. So if your asset balance sheet is strong, capital unlocks. So the main thing of Share the Codes Stokvel is to build that asset balance sheet and unlock what the entrepreneur can't unlock by himself or herself.
Yes. Yes. I just want to highlight that it is important for this conversation to have both of them on stage, because even though we are launching the Share the Code Stokvel, the platform that we are transacting on, where the money will be moving, is StokFella. And I heard Selebogo talking about scamming. Please, let's not go there. StokFella is a legal...
registered FSP, right?
Yes, registered FSP. And if you're a member in the group, if you're a member of that Stokvel group, every activity that happens on the group, you are privy of, you are aware of. And that's the nice thing about the transparency of the platform itself. So we do have the QR codes on this table, on the tables. There's also a QR code outside. If you just scan the QR code, it will take you directly to the Stokvel, and then also you can also visit our website, which is sharethecodes.co, where you learn more about how to form part of this community. But at the end of the day, once you've read, you need to transact. We need to be intentional. Before we wrap this up, I just want to highlight that the Share the Codes Stokvel is prioritizing product businesses or grocery-related businesses. Can you maybe just touch on that so that everyone is at ease?
All right. No, thanks, Buddy. So we've worked with a bunch of entrepreneurs, and what we've come to understand from a crowdfunding perspective, people like touch and feel, right? And we like narrowing things down. We don't like doing too many things. We believe in going deep, not going wide. That's just our philosophy, right? It builds trust quicker. Mfundo was standing on stage, you saw a product, it's either you like it or you don't. Does it make sense? It's harder with a service, right? There's a lot of great service-based businesses that do amazing things. But for our focus, because everybody must be focused, we started off by saying, let's just target the grocery basket. We know a lot of entrepreneurs in our community who are producing multiple types of products, but they don't have that access and exposure at that level. And it's also not that they don't have access to retail. Retail is now open, especially SPA. SPA is taking up black-owned businesses because SPA is run by entrepreneurs. So you can speak to one specific shop owner and they will put your product on stage. It's that simple. But the capacity to deliver has always been a challenge. That's what gave birth to the People's Fund, the People's Stokvel, Third Money Franchise Stokvel, all the things that we've done in the past. It's been given birth by, there's demand somewhere, but there's not enough capacity to do this. So what we are trying to do in focusing on grocery Stokvels is that we want to also just align with industry partners. You know, Tshepo spoke about the verification process. Pretty much it's enterprise development. And because we can track, there's a dashboard, we can monitor things. You as a corporate can come in, look into this thing and be like, okay, these guys are either making progress or not. You're not waiting for our reports. I can tell you we can BS our way around this. But there's a platform that is transparent, that is built to make sure that you can access the information that you're looking for. Ultimately, we're trying to make it easy for enterprise development, specifically for black entrepreneurs who are producing products, to know how they can contribute to the journey of what we're doing. And of course, because it's time and money and effort, enterprise development, the services that are in there, the biz plug, that's where we want to charge a fee, right? And we want to offset that fee through enterprise development. But the money that is actually raised for the product that the entrepreneur is producing, we want it to be as is. Like, here's 500,000 that is needed. Here are products to the value of 500,000. They get delivered. This guy makes money, and he can go and grow his business accordingly. I hope I've wrapped it up nicely from my end.
I think what's important is that the number one most biggest Stokvels in the country are groceries. Then come burial, as funugufa, just like that, right? But again, it was intentional because we realized that the grocery industry is a very big industry, and just because you are investing does not mean you're not eating. Braais, 7 colors, chisanyama, good sauces that comes with it, chicken, you are eating when you talk business. So how do we make sure that you narrow it down and you focus on that? You go to other industries. Yeah. Even us as StokFella, though we have the revenue opportunity, functionality, consumables is what we want to unlock. We also want to unlock services as well. I know he talked about services, but we've seen that a lot of Stokvel comes to us after they put their money, and then they say to us, we want to buy a building, but the bank wants financial statements. Now asking a Stokvel to put a financial statement. So it's like, okay, now we need to connect you with the financial service provider who would charge you a fee, but then they get reports from us. If I wanted to do audit, I could, but I don't. So there is so much opportunity because yes, the grocery as well, but there's so much activity that a Stokvel does. We've seen Stokvels go legal as well. We've seen Sakisizo Stokvel buy insurance as well for their members in case their members die. So there's so much happening if you just look at that industry and understand it properly.
Yeah. All right, thank you so much. I think that brings us to the end of this conversation tonight. So for those who are not part of any Stokvel, please get the QR code and join the people who are moving. We also have a closed community on Mighty platforms. You can also find our WhatsApp channel on as Share The Codes. Please follow us there. We are sending constant updates. We also have a newsletter where we're constantly updating you about what's new, what's happening, where you can find all of these beautiful things that we are talking about here. So our conversation does not end here. It does continue on other platforms, and we want you guys there. We want to continue this conversation with you, right? Yeah, but otherwise, thank you so much for coming. It's been a pleasure.